What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Business Choreography Podcast. You have both Lexi and Michael here for the show today, and we are going to be talking about VCVO, one of our strategies, and specifically how to decide which marketing strategy is best for you and your business. So let's cue that theme song, and then we'll jump into the episode for today.
Listen, there's a lot to learn when growing and scaling your business.
That's why we created the Business Choreography Podcast, where we talk about choreographing your marketing, operations, and sales into dynamic systems that increase your revenue and your impact.
We'll explore solid business principles and discuss all things that make businesses dance to success with clarity.
We'll help you figure out where the holes are in your business and what you can do to fix them. Think of us as your official business choreographers, aka your insider growth strategists.
Remember, your choreography matters. Welcome to the Business Choreography Podcast.
All right, let's do it.
Welcome back. We're excited today to share with you one of our favorite frameworks. This is from our marketing portion of our business, and we love this framework. It is awesome. It's helped so many people, and it's a unique take because it's about marketing choreography. So Lexi, let's jump in and share with them. So if you're watching this podcast, if you're listening to this podcast, we do have a visual. So if you'd like to go over to YouTube, you should check it out on YouTube and watch so you can see some of the slides. We do have some slides and visuals for you. But if not, I understand sometimes you use it to work out with, or when you're on a walk, or another time, and that's cool. You can just listen. We'll do our best to describe it as well, but we wanted to make sure that you had both options available. So we're going to share that to the screen. We're going to start off with something pretty important to the overall concept. And so before we get to the framework of VCVO, which is part of our marketing choreography framework, we want to talk a little bit about tactics versus strategies. And so we want to just cover a little bit about what that is. So let's go in and let's just go through what the definition of tactic is. It's an action or strategy carefully planned to achieve a specific end. The minority attempted to control the council by delaying tactic, right? That's the Google definition with a little bit of a quote blurb in there. Now, the idea here is the concept of tactic and strategy oftentimes get confused. Don't worry, we're going to give you the definition of strategy as well. But what we like to do is we like to chunk it down so it's easier to explain and understand. But tactic and strategy are very similar. They're very much the same. And so
I actually told Michael that he had to do this part because I still sometimes get him confused. But when you can really understand it, it's really, really, it's powerful.
And it's easy to confuse, right? Because if we look at this definition, I'm going to go to this next slide here, and here's Google's definition of strategy. It's a plan of action or policy designed to achieve a major overall aim. Now, they basically sound the same, right? Like this is very similar. So if we go back, an action or strategy carefully planned to achieve a specific end, or a plan of action or policy designed to achieve a major overall aim. So you listen to those two things and they're pretty similar, you know? So we didn't like the fact that they weren't defined enough because people throw around these terms all the time. And so one of the best things that we can do in the human language and as humans is give meaning to things that we are trying to define and articulate. And when you're talking about our choreography, definition and articulation are two things that are incredibly important as you try to create the best piece of choreography you can for your business. And so in order to make this a little easier, because they are so similar, we wanted to define them. We wanted to articulate them in a better way. And so let's look at it this way. So I'm going to go to this next slide here, and it says tactic equals small system, strategy equals medium-sized system, and then we're going to add one more in there, and that's machine. Machine is sort of your global system, right? So when we talk about a tactic, oftentimes a tactic is something super small. It's like, oh, here's a tactic. Send a 9-word email. Great. That was popularized by, oh my goodness, I just forgot his name. That's okay. You can look it
Shoot,
up.
I don't remember it either.
It just slipped my brain.
I get emails from him a lot. And
Yeah,
it's like Whisker or something. Oh gosh, I can't remember his name though.
it'll come back to us. But
Yeah.
he popularized this tactic. It's a tactic. Why? Because it's a single email and it can actually have a really profound impact on your list. And so a simple 9-word email or something similar to that 9-word email is a tactic, whereas a strategy might say, okay, what are the emails that are surrounding that tactic in order to amplify the tactic, in order to make that medium or make that small teeny strategy turn into a larger medium-sized strategy. And so now we might take and say, okay, well, we might build a strategy that says, I'm going to send that 9-word email, but I need a strategy that includes a funnel or a set of funnels.
Well,
and this
what's
is
going to
where
happen after you send that 9-word email, and what thing is going to go on?
and what
That is
happened
going
before, right?
and
Was
what
there
happened before to
some
actually get
noise?
the list?
That's right. And so this strategy, we like to use strategy as something a little bit more medium to large. Now, the larger you get with the strategy, the more you start to realize you have to have a machine that's built. And the machine is a bunch of strategies that you connect together to create a piece of choreography. And that machine is imperative as you continue to build your business, because if you don't create a machine, your business has no value. And that sounds really funny. It might be earning money, but it might not have any sort of way to have value, meaning you might not be able to create a valuation that another investor or another person could come and buy your business because it doesn't have the machine set up. And so it is imperative that as your business continues to grow and it starts to get bigger, that you move from just having a small tactic or a bunch of small tactics to integrating those tactics into multiple strategies that are a little bit more medium size, and ultimately creating a machine that can run your business. Because
Also
if
known
you
as the choreography.
also known as the choreography. And that's why we love this and why we wanted to define it for you. So we could literally talk about just that part all day long, although we have an agenda today. Today, our end goal is to really explain to you and let you know that everything is a system. Why is that, Lex?
Oh man, you have to think of things as systems, because when you just think of it as one thing and then you think of it as one thing over here and then one thing over here and then one thing over here, there's nothing that's ever getting accomplished because you just have all these random things that are going on. And so we want to think of our marketing as a complete system. Now, a lot of times people are thinking system. They're going, okay, system, and they may think it's the tech. It's the tech that is the system. That's not necessarily the case. We're thinking about all of the different strategies that are being put together. And sometimes, you have the tech that's amplifying that, and you have the cool software that's going to amplify those strategies. But we want to make sure that we have a great system in place. And so let's talk about the actual definition of system. So system is a set of things working together as parts of a mechanism or an interconnecting network. And I think the most crucial part in this is mechanism or an interconnecting network. Right? That is so powerful, is that everything is interconnected. When you're thinking of just a tactic, that's one thing that's going on. And so many times people pull out this tactic. Okay, I'm going to run this marketing tactic. And they go, well, why didn't that thing work? Right? I sent that email. Well, how many people are on your list? Well, like 5. Well, maybe that's not going to work then. You need to create a system that is going to allow you to get more people on your list. And then when you actually send that email, it's going to do something. And we want to start to interconnect all of these different tactics and all of these different things to create a system and create a machine.
The thing I love about this definition, if for those of you looking at this, if you're not, check it out on YouTube, is the second part 2, or the number 2 portion of this definition from Google is a set of principles or procedures according to which something is done, an organized framework or method. Wow, that says so much, right? Because when you have a framework, you're in the process of creating a machine. You're creating something that is repeatable and that can be done regardless of the person doing it. Now, that's not to say that you don't have to put in your high functioning, skilled workers that have been trained to do the thing, but they still need a framework. They still need the principles and procedures according to which your framework is guiding them on. And so it's important that that system is created. So for example, when we started this conversation today, we told you we have a framework, a system essentially, and we call it the Marketing Choreography framework or system. We took a piece of this framework because it's a much larger framework than the piece we're going to share with you today. But this piece is imperative. This is a really important piece. We call it VCVO.
VCVO.
And VCVOs, we're going to go through and we're going to talk about each piece of this. So the next slide will kind of show all that. But yeah, go ahead, Lex.
And here's a really, really important piece to understand. We wanted to talk about how to decide which marketing strategy is best for you and for your business. And when we look at this VCVO portion of the map, we can start to map out what's going to be the best thing for you, because we start to work backwards. And this will make sense as we dive into each of the pieces of VCVO. So let's dive in. Let's
absolutely. Remember, we have to start with the end in mind. So here we are with VCVO. We love this framework. It's helped so many people, and we wanted it to help you next. So please follow what we have to say here, because it's going to make a big difference. It's going to help you.
Yeah, for sure. So we're going to talk about it. We'll talk about it from the V to the C to the B to the O. But when we actually run it, we run it from the O to the V to the C to the V.
and that's why you see that there are arrows going both directions. The arrow from left to right is what your customers will experience. From right to left is what you will create. We're building from the end in mind, and it's important that we go through these steps. And when you don't, oftentimes you're left, like Lexi said earlier, wondering what the heck happened. I did the thing, I did the tactic, right? Because there are lots of tactics that might go in each piece of VCVO. But when you don't create the system around it, the framework around it, you could actually be left wanting when it comes to the end result.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's talk about the first V. So if you're not seeing it, I'm sorry, but we'll try to explain it well enough that you know what's happening on the screen. So the first V stands for noise vehicle. And the noise vehicles, it's a bunch of little bubbles on the screen. And those bubbles are filled with different types of ways that you can get your message out to people. You can utilize Facebook. You can utilize something called a Dream 100. You can utilize YouTube. You can utilize an email list. You can utilize a blog. You can utilize a software we like to utilize called FlowChat. You can utilize LinkedIn. You can, what else do we have?
TikTok. Podcast.
Oh, TikTok. Yeah.
Blogs.
Podcast. You can utilize a Facebook group, right? There's all of these noise vehicles that we can utilize to get our message out to people, right?
And they keep growing every day. So that's why we have a couple of blank spots there, because you might have a particular vehicle that you use to convey your noise. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, what noise are you talking about? Don't worry, we'll get to that. It's coming. But the vehicle, just think of it this way. You have something to say. In order to say it and anybody hear it, you need a vehicle. You need some sort of mechanism to be able to broadcast what it is you have to say. And it could be, from the old days, a bullhorn driving through the streets, like in Back to the Future, right? There's the mayor or the wannabe mayor driving through the streets in his car with his bullhorn yelling out, "Vote for me," right? He's in his vehicle using a bullhorn. Both of those two things are vehicles or mechanisms for them to actually get their voice out, get their message out. So it could even just be something as simple as a website. That could be your vehicle, right? It could be that portion of it. And there's lots of ways to look at that, right? We just put some ideas and some concepts in there of ways that you can do it. The problem with websites these days is that you still have to announce it somewhere. You still have to have a vehicle to get people to it.
Sometimes there's still a thing that has to go in front of that, right? Has to
Right.
go in front of the funnel, has to go in front of the website that you have. And that's where people sometimes get confused as they go, okay, I'm going to create this funnel, or I'm going to create this website. Awesome. Well, how are you going to get people to that thing? And that's where the noise comes into play, right?
This is a big deal.
Sorry, go for it.
Oh, I was going to say this is a big deal because we identified the challenge early on in the marketing, and not because we saw it, but because we experienced it. Right. And a lot of you maybe built a website and thought to yourself, well, if I build the website, then they're going to show up. They're going to come. Well, or maybe they won't, because how would they know you built the website, right? So you still needed some other vehicle. And that's where things like doing a Dream 100 campaign, if you don't know what that is, that, you know, let us know, and we'll dig into that a little bit further, or go watch the episode by Dana Derricks that we did on the podcast. So it's a great episode. And, you know, there's ways to do it through Facebook Lives or Instagram Lives or Shorts, YouTube Shorts or TikTok, or all sorts of ways to get that message out there. But your website wasn't necessarily your noise vehicle, or at least not at this stage.
Yeah, sometimes people just put that funnel or the noise or the website in that first slot with the noise vehicle, when we would actually put it over in the sales vehicle. If you're looking at this, we've got the B, we got the C, we've got the V and the O. So we'd actually put it over in that third step, right? And there's other things that come before that to get people to that. But sometimes people are putting it right in that initial place, and then they're going, why is nobody showing up? Well, because you're missing the first two steps that have to go into actually promoting your website and promoting your funnel and promoting your offer and promoting your thing. So let's go to the next thing. Let's go to the second piece. So we've got the V, which was the noise vehicle. Now we've got the C, which is the noise campaign. So Michael, I'll let you talk about noise campaign a bit.
I love this. This, if you can see the screen, if you can't see the screen, it looks a little bit like a little speaker, right? Yeah. And that's because it's the noise campaign. This is all about the noise, and there's so many different ways to make noise. In fact, the C could stand for creativity as much as it stands for noise campaign, right? Yeah. Because really the best marketers of the past and of the current day time are all great at making noise. And it's interesting, right? Because they say good press, bad press, all of the press is good press, whether it's good or bad. It doesn't make a difference because it's getting you noticed. And there are a lot of campaigns that were done in our history that were like that. They didn't care if it was good press, bad press. It was press, and that means they were getting noticed. There are lots of noise campaigns. You could study some of the greats like Barnum from The Greatest Showman. He had some incredible noise campains, and he used the vehicle of the day, which was newspapers and different elements of, read all about it. He'd put an ad in the newspaper or get a headline or something like that. That was the Facebook of the day, right? Everybody had to get the daily newspaper. That was something that I bet the newspapers were thinking would never go away. Although nowadays, owning a newspaper company is probably not your highest,
not the greatest,
highest grossing revenue company these days. But unless they change their format. Now, a noise campaign is no good without a vehicle to put it in, right? If the mayor in the vehicle driving around in the Back to the Future set, right, or Back to the Future movie, had no great message or no way to actually get his message out there as to why people should vote for him, he could actually do as much harm as he did good. So he had to have a great message. Vote for me. Why? Because of this. Why? Okay, how? Okay, so he's getting this message out. This noise campaign was out there to say, hey, this is what this is all about. This is why you should pay attention to me. Right. And this is a big deal because whatever noise campaign you create, it needs to be choreographed. There's no doubt about it. If you don't choreograph it, you could actually just run around in circles chasing your tail just like a hamster. It's never going to get there. It's just going to keep running. And of course, it's going to run in the middle of the night when you don't want it to. So my daughter just got a hamster and it's one
Oh my
noisy
gosh.
But what else can you add on that?
I think that's good. I think we've got the V, we've got the C, and I think we should move on to the sales vehicle.
I think we have to, because if I don't, we'll end up talking about a noise
I
campaign
know.
until we're blue in the face.
I got to keep the pace here.
I know. All right, cool. Let's jump
Okay.
into sales vehicle.
Okay, so the next V is the sales vehicle. And remember, this is the order that your customer is going through this process and this strategy and this piece of choreography. So you've got a noise vehicle, and it could be multiple noise vehicles that you utilize. And then you have a campaign that gets people to your sales vehicle. And the sales vehicle can be a website, it can be a funnel, it can be usually it's one of those two things, but it's a way that, you know, maybe they're opting in, or they are getting to the point where they can buy something, right? And so you're utilizing those noise vehicles, you're utilizing that campaign to get them to this page where they can either say yes or they say no, right? And so we get to that sales vehicle. Sometimes it's a webinar. Sometimes it's a challenge of some sort. Sometimes it's a summit. Like, there's all of these different strategies that we can utilize, and all these different sales vehicles that we can utilize. But we want to get people to that so they can give us their information, or they can put in their credit card at that point.
One of the most important elements is a list. And I can't tell you the number of businesses that we've worked with, talked with, consulted for, that haven't yet realized that an email list is probably one of the best assets you could gain as a company. And I always love to tell this story. If you didn't notice, and you haven't been living in a box, then you might have heard that Facebook bought Instagram. This was a while back, and they paid some ridiculous amount. I don't know if it was like 3 or 7 billion. I guess I should look it up to see what the official number was, but it was some billions amount of dollars to purchase Instagram. Now, let me ask you this honestly right now, as you listen to this, think about it. Do you think that with Facebook's resources and revenue that they bring in, their development teams and some of the best development engineers in the world, do you think they couldn't have just built another platform that did exactly what Instagram did? Of course they could have, and they probably could have done it in 3 or 4 months. But here's the thing. What did Facebook want that Instagram had? They wanted the users. They wanted the list. It was the list that mattered. And that's why they paid billions of dollars for that. Not because they couldn't build it, not because they couldn't build it maybe even better, but they wanted the list. And so you have to understand that getting the name and the email, creating a list of your customers and being in control of that list is huge. And that's why we would use a sales vehicle, because it could be something as simple as getting an opt-in page and giving them some piece of value, or it could be something as complex as running a summit or a webinar, or whatever type of sales funnel or shopping cart or whatever it is. It could even be something like Shopify or Google Stores or FBA through Amazon. Like, it could be all sorts of different ways to create that vehicle. Right. But you have to have a way to gain your customer, get them on your list, and to be able to get them the product. Right. And this is a big deal, which leads us directly into the last one, which is your product or offer.
Right. So now you've got your product or offer. Sometimes that product or offer is a free thing that you're giving them at the end, right? Just to get them on your list. And sometimes that product or offer is your actual core offer that you're trying to get people to. And this is crucial. Because sometimes you have to have multiple of these VCVOs, and we'll show that in the next slide. But sometimes you have to have multiple of these VCVOs to get you to the core offer. But it's important that you're always leading to some type of offer as you're taking someone through this process.
Each piece of your offer is a big deal. Now, there's something called a value ladder. You may or may not have heard of it at this stage in the game. And there are some great uses of a value ladder. We have found that value ladders confuse the heck out of a lot of people, and they also stifle progress in many instances, because sometimes people are so bent on filling out the entire value ladder that they don't even get started. One of the things that we would really like to emphasize right here is that if you can get a general idea for your business value ladder, then you're good. Now, notice I said business value ladder. We believe that you can have a product value ladder, an offer based off of this VCVO that says, okay, this is the stages that somebody's going to go through. For example, if you had a book funnel, you might start off with some free opt-in that they're going to get. You might then move to selling them the book, and then you might move to upselling them a course. That might be your value ladder for this particular offer, and that's important. And that's an okay thing to try to fill out when you're trying to create an offer that has, a free element to it, has maybe a slightly more increased paid, right? They're putting a little skin in the game, and then it maybe has an upsell that's a little bit more, and maybe a second or third upsell that actually helps you to earn some money on that, rather than it just being a loss leader of an offer. So there's a lot of different ways you can do this. There's a lot of different elements that could go into creating this product or offer. But one of the things that, aside from VCVO, that is super important is that you create what Lexi said, your core offer. Your core offer is super important. And we wish in our early days that we had understood this. I think people were maybe saying it, but like so many of you, we too were, there's lots of shiny baubles to chase after, and so it's easy to not get it. But here we're going to take a hammer out right now. We're going to bunk it over your virtual head. So there you go. There it is. There's a hammer over your head, and we're going to tell you, you should have a core offer. Now, does that mean that will remain your core offer for the remainder of your days until you die? Not necessarily, no, but you need to understand that all roads lead to Rome. And that will lead us directly into the next piece. So why don't you take it from there, Lex?
Yeah, for sure.
This
And I
is a
also
great
want to say
visual.
this. What did you say?
This is a great visual. You gotta, if you haven't watched us or subscribed on YouTube, you gotta see this because you're gonna love it.
Yeah, for sure. And I also wanted to mention that, that piece of, well, I want to know how to decide which marketing strategy is best for me. Well, when you're looking at the VCVO strategy, you can think of it backwards and you can go, okay, here's my offer. Here's my thing. Here's my offer. Now we can work backwards and go, okay, what is the sales vehicle that I'm going to use? Now, what is the campaign that I'm going to run, and what noise vehicles am I going to use? Now you can look at it and go, okay, I have a strategy. I have a plan. There's so many different strategies out there. There's so many different things that you can do, but you have to understand your offer first. That is key. You have to understand your offer first, and you have to understand yourself, and you have to understand the resources that you have. If you don't understand you and you don't understand your resources, it's hard to fill that out. If you don't have money in this beginning stage and you're going, I can't run an ad, I can't put $1,000 into an ad campaign, then don't run that strategy, right? I know this sounds silly, but just don't run that strategy. Run an organic strategy. Take a look at that VCVO and go, okay, this is my offer. And instead of using a Facebook ad as my noise vehicle, I'm just going to utilize a Facebook group. And I'm going to utilize a messaging system, and I'm going to run a campaign to my sales vehicle. And so that's how you can start to decide, what is this best strategy for me? What is the best thing for me and for my business, and based on the resources that I have available to me. If you have some type of budget for ads and you understand how to run ads, or you are going to hire somebody to run ads for you, then cool. Then you can start to look at that. But make sure that all of the pieces are there. Make sure that you know what's going to happen on the back end and that you can convert it, or you're going to be in, it's going to be interesting. You're going to be losing a lot of money. So then getting to that wagon wheel, this is very cool. So the wagon wheel has like your core offer in the middle, and then it has a bunch of VCVOs that are the spokes going around. And so we can have a whole bunch of those strategies that are leading to our core offer. And like I was saying earlier, sometimes that offer that's at the end, that VCVO, that O that is at the end of that strand, sometimes it's a free thing. And so when you're looking at it and you're going, and if you're watching this, then you can see Michael with the arrow, right? And so sometimes at the end, it's a free thing and you're going, well, I'm not making any money. Well, then from there, you need to put another VCVO in place that's actually getting people to your core offer. You need to run another strategy that's going to push people to the core offer from there, right? Maybe it's a set of emails. Maybe it's going to be that you're going to run a webinar. Maybe you've got the list now, and now you're going to run a strategy that is going to utilize all those leads that you have, and now you can get people to that core offer from there. Michael, what else do you want to add to that wagon wheel?
The simplicity of this framework is that it's a wheel, and a wheel is essentially the most simplistic of machines that changed our world.
Yeah.
When we got a wheel, we were able to carry things that were heavier than we could otherwise carry. We could move them for long distances. There's speculation that the pyramids were somehow the rocks were somehow carried with some type of wheel system or whatever. But the idea here is very simplistic, but within it is complicated, because without each of the spokes, the wheel wouldn't actually operate. And so each VCVO that's a spoke has its purpose. And that's why we started off talking about tactics, strategies, and machines. We wanted to talk about the overall system. And as you're a new company, you might not have a wheel, and I understand that, and that's okay. You might have one VCVO system, and that might be leading directly to your core offer. So that the VCVO is your core offer, right? Lexi talked about the other side, where it could be your free thing that you're doing to get them to your core offer, but it could actually be leading to your core offer, and that might be your first play, and that is great. And as a startup, that's a really great place to start.
And if you're not making any money right now, then you're probably missing one of those pieces. Maybe you have a V and maybe you have an O, or maybe you have two of the V's, but you don't have the C and you don't have the O, right? And so you've got to fill in those pieces.
Each business has its own downsides. And so you have to ask yourself, what is my business's downside? And which do I have one VCVO system in place? Or maybe I have two or three, and I'm looking to scale and I want to take it to the next level. And that's great. Maybe your business is, found success off of Facebook ads. Some businesses never do. I'm telling you, some people just bail on Facebook ads and say they never work. And other businesses are completely 100% created from actual Facebook ads. And that's how they get their business. But to rely on that in order to scale, or even for the long-term element of your business, is a very, very shaky foundation. It's quicksand. And if you've been in business and you've been using Facebook ads and you haven't been banned yet, or permanently banned,
it will happen.
It will happen eventually. We had it happen to us last year, and it was it was devastating. When it does happen, it really kicks your butt. But you have to build the other portions of the system, and that could be all sorts of things. Sometimes it's hard to be creative because you don't even know the elements to be creative, and that's where sometimes an outside perspective of somebody who has done all these different pieces of choreography can come in and go, hey, did you try this? Or maybe you tried it and didn't work because you were missing pieces of the VCVO system. And that's where choreography comes in and steps in to save the day, because sometimes it's a matter of having an outside perspective to be able to bring in the other pieces of choreography that will allow your business to be able to excel, to grow, to scale, to stabilize. I mean, maybe you're going through lots of ups and downs, and you're looking at your business and you're thinking to yourself, why is my business going through these volatile up and down? Sometimes where it's like total feast, sometimes it's total famine. Usually when you have a feast or famine type business, it's not just because that's how it is. It's because you haven't created the other surrounding pieces of choreography. And you might say to me, Michael, it's like this has been said to me, Michael, our business just doesn't make money at this time of the year. And I'm thinking, you just don't have a good system to actually combat that. And you go, well, there's nothing I can sell. That's not true. There's always something that your business can sell. There's always a partnership you can make that can counter that half of the year. We once upon a time, I had a competitive ballroom dance school, because if you know our background, we used to be professional ballroom dancers back in the day. And we had a competitive ballroom school, and then the business always kicked up really, really big all the way up to nationals. And then after nationals, the typical cadence of that business was that everybody disappeared until the next national started getting closer, and then everything started getting busy. So if you have the right type of system, if you have the right type of choreography that is put into place, you can counter those things happening in your business. And that's one of the things that VCVO is incredibly useful for, when you can go in and create this overall machine for your business, and or at the very least add some other VCVO spokes to your wheel.
Indeed. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the BC podcast. And make sure to go and like and review. And if you like this episode, then share it with your friends, tag us, all that good stuff. We're so grateful that you joined us and that you listened to this episode. We hope that you found a ton of value, and we will see you on the next episode.
Bye-bye.
The choreography your business is running can determine whether you can grow and scale to the next level.
It's so easy just to take business day by day, but that can leave you putting out fires and keep you from growing.
Find out how the choreography for your marketing, operations, and sales can raise your revenue and create more impact.
Schedule a growth strategy analysis call with us today.
Go to bizchoreo.com to book your time.